Welcome to Feedback Not Received, folks. It's time for me to take accountability. Yes, that's right. I owe you all some accountability. Last week, I made my Oscar predictions, and I think I may have done a bad job. So that's what we're going to address today. I hope you can all forgive me for my bad Oscars guesses. Now, I actually haven't looked at most of the results yet. I was saving that for this episode. I did look at the sort of top few categories. I think Best Actor, Best Actress, Supporting Actor, and maybe and I looked at Best Picture, so that I could post about it on TikTok. Sue me. But now I'm going to go through all of my guesses and all of the results, and we'll see just how bad I did. For the big categories that I did look at, I was 0 for 5, I think. So it doesn't bode very well. Let's get into it. Okay. I have my guesses here and I have the results here. If you do follow the pod on TikTok, which you should, you've seen a few of these already, but it's fine. Let's get through it and we'll see the total score. I think last week I said if I could get even a quarter of them, that would be like pretty good. And if I got even half right, then I'm basically psychic, because I have, again, to reiterate, I have seen a total of one of the Oscar nominated films this year. Based on the few results that I have seen, I don't even think I'm going to get a quarter, but let's get into it. Okay. Number 1, actor in a leading role. Winner was Adrien Brody for The Brutalist. I had picked Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, so that's a 0. I'm going to have to keep track of how many I actually get right. Actor in a supporting role. I had picked Yura Borisov for Anora. The winner was Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. Did not get that one. Actress in a leading role, I had picked Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. The winner was Mikey Madison for Anora. Actress in a supporting role, I had picked Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. The winner was Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. 0 for 4. Best animated feature film, I had given it to The Wild Robot. The winner was Flow. Animated short film, I had picked Magic Candies. The winner was In the Shadow of the Cypress. Cinematography, the winner was The Brutalist. I had picked Nosferatu. Costume design, I had picked Nosferatu. The winner was Wicked. Okay. Directing, I gave it to The Substance. The winner was Anora. Documentary feature film, I had picked Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. The winner was No Other Land. Documentary short film, I had picked Death by Numbers. The winner was The Only Girl in the Orchestra. Film editing, I had given to Anora, and Anora won. Hey, okay. We got one so far, folks. We got one. Let me highlight that in green because I got it right. Hell yes. Okay. International feature film, I had given it to Denmark, The Girl with the Needle. The winner was Brazil, I'm Still Here. Makeup and hairstyling, I had given to Wicked. The winner was The Substance. Music original score, I had given to The Conclave. The winner was The Brutalist. Music original song, I had given to Like a Bird from Sing Sing. The winner was El Mal from Emilia Perez. And Best Picture, I had given to Dune Part 2, and the winner was Anora. Oh my gosh, I almost completely skipped past a couple of categories. Okay, production design. The winner was Wicked. I had given it to The Brutalist. Live action short film. The winner was I'm Not a Robot. I gave it to The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. Sound, I had given to The Wild Robot. The winner was Dune Part 2. Visual effects, the winner was Dune Part 2. I had given it to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Writing for an adapted screenplay, the winner was The Conclave. I had given it to A Complete Unknown. And writing for an original screenplay, the winner was Anora, and I had given it to The Substance. 23 categories, and I got one right. And not even one for the movie that I actually saw. I had seen Wicked, and they did win at least costume design. I guessed correctly for film editing. I got Anora correct. There we go. Hold on, what's the percentage on that? That's a solid 4%. So if we were in school, that would definitely be a failing grade by quite a lot. Good thing is we're not in school, and I'm not going to suffer any consequences for this. But this is exactly why I felt it was important to take accountability for my actions in the really terrible predictions for the Oscars this year. I did a bad job. And that's why it's funny. It would be less funny if I had seen the movies, because then it's like serious. This was like, you ever on like TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever, you ever have those like, intuition tests come up where it's like, pick which crystal, and then if you pick the crystal that they show in the video, then it's like, intuition or whatever. This was my intuition test. As it turns out, well, I may be psychic, but I'm not psychic when it comes to the Oscars. I do have a friend who's very into movies and who has a pretty good track record of making Oscars predictions, so I look forward to hearing what her results were. But mine, yeah, not so good, folks. That's okay. You can make fun of me for it. It's fine. Now that we have revisited my shameful predictions, we can move on to the things that I actually want to talk about this week. Because I don't really want to spend more time on the Oscars. Like, whatever. There were some nice red carpet looks. Who cares? I mean, people care. I realize that people care. I don't really care to talk about the Oscars anymore. Like, I don't have opinions on who won because, like I said, I haven't seen most of the movies. So I do think, actually, if I recall correctly, some of the ones that did end up winning were, like, kind of second choices that I, like, when I was picking. And I was like, oh, I feel like this one or this one. I think I did okay. Maybe if I looked at my, like, top 2 for some of them, I might have gotten more right. But there you go. That's the thing, folks. Actually, I do have a track record of this. You ever have like a test, or like especially like a multiple choice test, and you don't know the answer, so you're like, okay, this one seems vaguely right, but then you start second guessing yourself, and then you change your answer, and then when you get the results back, it's like, oh, the first answer that you instinctively were like, this is the right one, the one that you would have picked, it was the right answer, but then you changed your answer, and like that's so frustrating. That's what I feel like I did to myself. I was second guessing myself. I should have just gone on pure instinct. I was thinking about it too much with no actual, information to back it up. I should have stuck with my intuition. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe I actually do have good intuition and I just wasn't listening to it. Maybe that's the lesson here. Definitely, that's totally the lesson here, right? That I actually am psychic. I just wasn't listening to my psychic abilities. Sure, let's go with that narrative. The power just went out in the middle of recording, but it's fine. The government doesn't want me to talk about the hot boys on my phone game. They're trying to silence me. It's fine. The first bit of the episode is recoverable, so it's okay. It's just a little annoying, but it's fine. I went and I had some food and I waited a little bit to make sure that the power wasn't going to go out again, and I don't think it will, so it's fine. Everything is okay. That being said, I'm going to restart the conversation about Love and Deep Space because I got interrupted in the middle of my thoughts by the government. So, I was going to talk about Love and Deep Space. Love and Deep Space. What is it? I will tell you what it is, and then I will tell you why I'm talking about it specifically right now. Love and Deep Space is a mobile game, and it is an otome game, or a dating game, basically. It's a whole subgenre. And before we go even any further, I'm going to say something else. Let people enjoy things. The dating sim, dating game, otome genre gets a lot of flack. Let people enjoy things. I like dating sims. I enjoy them, among other video game genres. And I don't want to hear anybody talking shit about the genre. Okay? It's a genre that's primary audience is women. And for that, it gets a lot of unnecessary flack. But whatever. Let people have fun. Let people enjoy things. Jesus Christ. Let people enjoy things. Okay. Love and Deep Space is an otome game. It's a dating game. There are 5 love interests, and I love them. And it's a mobile game, too. It's not like cross-platform. It's also a gacha game, which is, for those unfamiliar maybe, basically means that it's free to play, And there's a certain amount of content that is accessible, free to play, but a large portion of the game relies on pulling from a random like reward pool essentially. And of course, you can pay real money to potentially get more rewards more quickly or potentially increase your chances of getting better rewards. Basically, that's the gist of it. Gacha games. So it's an otome gacha game. It has been on my radar for quite a while, but I have not played it, and I will explain why. Reason number one being that I have avoided gacha games by habit, generally speaking. I don't trust myself, or I didn't trust myself to be responsible with them, which I think is a fair thing, right? It's like, I don't know if I can handle this genre of game because I have a personality that might get a little too lost in the sauce, so to speak. So I've avoided gachas in general. Back in December, though, the same company that makes Love and Deep Space, Infold Games, released a game called Infinity Nikki. So the Nikki series of games is also a gacha series, mainly on mobile, but dress-up games. So where you pull for clothes to dress up your character. And I haven't really been interested in the Nikki games, partially because they were sort of more visual novel style dress-up games, and I wasn't super into that. But Infinity Nikki is a open world fantasy RPG dress-up gacha game with beautiful clothes. So I have been playing Infinity Nikki since the week it released, and I've really been enjoying it, and in fact have proven to myself that I can responsibly play a gacha game. Yay! Everybody give me pats on the back for not getting a gambling addiction for fake clothes in a video game. Good job, me. So I have a budget, and I have spent that budget responsibly, basically, because I'm also an adult with a job, so like I can spend money on video games, certainly can. It's just when you, again, get lost in the sauce. So, Infold games were on my radar, but I wasn't super interested in them. I started playing Infinity Nikki, and Love and Deep Space became even more on my radar. But I deliberately avoided all information about Love and Deep Space, because I was like, this game is going to make me insane. I tend to get really fixated on fictional characters, and if I have a favorite, then I just want to consume every bit of possible content about that character, which is fine when it's like a book or a video game that you pay for once, and then you have access to the game. For a gacha game, where the content is locked behind specific progress that can be speeded up by spending real money, I was a little concerned. So I have not been playing Love and Deep. Recently, however, a friend of mine started getting Love and Deep Space videos on her TikTok algorithm, and she started sending them to me because, of course, it's like, oh my god, look at this is so fun. And I was like, oh great, I will just watch the videos on TikTok, and I will not play the game. Of course, cue me 2 weeks into that process, I did download the game. The third sort of reason that I wouldn't have downloaded this game previously, but now did, is that I had a very old phone up until recently. My phone was from 2016. It was very old. And I was fine. I don't need a new phone every year or every couple of years. It did the job. I was able to make phone calls, and I was able to use it to like watch TikTok and YouTube and whatever. But it was nearing the end of its life anyway. Like I couldn't really use it and charge it at the same time, and it would get like really, really hot. And it did not have a lot of storage. So like if I had tried to download Love and Deep Space, by the way, it's a mobile game. It is a huge, it's like, I think taking up like 30 gigabytes of storage on my phone right now. Like I think a lot of people play it on tablets, but yeah, it takes up a lot of space. Not only would I have not been able to download it because of the space on my old phone, like I think it would have actually blown up my phone if I had tried to use it on my old phone. So there was that factor too. However, over the holidays, a few weeks back, I dropped that phone in the toilet. And like I said, the phone was already hanging on for dear life to begin with, and then being submerged in water did not do it any favors. It still worked, but I, at that point, was like, I'd rather replace it now while it still works and I can get all the pictures off and like transfer all the data and everything, rather than wait for it to fully bite the dust and then have to start from scratch with a new phone. So I got a new phone relatively recently. It's not actually a new phone, it's a used phone, but it's newer than the phone that I had. New to me, which means that it's actually capable of running Love and Deep Space, and it has the storage space to do so. So all of these factors combined in a perfect maelstrom of conditions for me to play Love and Deep Space, which I have been. And you know what? Again, I will say, pat me on the back. I have been very responsible and very I was going to say I've been very normal about it. I have not been normal about it. I am not normal about Love and Deep Space, but I have been responsible as an adult with a budget in terms of the money, and I have spent some money because, again, I have a job and I'm allowed to do that, but I have not developed a gambling addiction for the fictional men in my phone. So that's good. But why am I talking about Love and Deep Space now? Like I said, it's not a new game, and actually even the most recent update wasn't that recent. No. Why I am talking about Love and Deep Space now is that one of the love interests, Raphael, his birthday was this week. It was on March 6th, I believe. He's a Pisces man. He's also one of my two favorites. Raphael and Caleb are my two favorites. Raphael was the first one because you meet him earlier in the story. So it was Raphael's birthday. It was my man's birthday this week, which was very, very cute. They had a little in-game birthday event for him. And as part of that in-game birthday event, you could send him a little birthday card, which is like, it's like, oh, well, I was going to say it's silly, but the whole thing is silly. It's a boyfriend simulator in my phone, and it's silly and I like it, whatever. You can send him a little birthday card as part of the birthday event and just send him little birthday wishes, whatever. All well and good. Infold, the company that makes the game, also hosted an in-person event for Raphael's birthday in China, where the company is based and where a large portion of the fan base is in China. As part of the in-person event, it looked very cute, and I'm very grateful to the fans who went and posted pictures for all of those of us who cannot participate in the events. It was very cute, super like well themed, and I think that's super cute to do. Like, I've seen similar things for like K-pop potentially, but like I just think like having a little like real world birthday event for the characters is cute. Okay. Very grateful to the fans who posted photos. Part of that in-person birthday event was that they would display some of the birthday messages that people had sent Raphael in the game on like a screen or whatever. I assume like on like a rotating basis or whatever, right? Super cute idea, of course. However, people cannot be trusted, is the gist of it. Now, obviously, they had to moderate the birthday wishes to make sure that the ones that they would have been displaying in public would be like appropriate in many ways, right? Because people could write anything. Like for all they know, someone could write their like home address on there, and of course they don't want to display someone's home address, right? So they were moderating, of course. And I mean, I think it's a safe assumption to assume that anything you put into the game, any information, anything you write in the game, they're going to have access to that data, right? That's just kind of part of it. Turns out some people were sending death threats to Raphael, the fictional man in our phones, via his fictional birthday cards for his fictional birthday event. Let's all just sit with that for a moment and think, I did not do that. And that makes me feel better about myself. So yeah, some people were sending death threats and other vile messages via these birthday cards to Raphael, which were being moderated by Infold because they were going to be displaying some of them at this in-person event. Strike one. Strike two was that some of these people who were putting hateful messages to Raphael in the game were also sharing them outside the game. Because this is one thing I would actually say. If you are a person who feels such strong negative emotions that you feel the temptation to send death threats to people on the internet, I'd rather they send death threats to a person who does not actually exist. Raphael will not be harmed. His mental health will not suffer by people sending him death threats because he is not real. I do feel bad for the staff who would have had to review those messages, obviously, because people shouldn't have to read that kind of stuff. But like, I'm kind of like, okay, you needed a safe outlet for whatever you're going through that makes you feel that you need to do this. At least it's a fictional character. Okay. But then these fans, not fans of Raphael, but fans of the game who were doing this, also then went into other online fan spaces and were like gleefully sharing sharing their screenshots that they had written these like death threats and like sharing them in these fan spaces. Probably for two reasons, either because they genuinely hate Raphael that much, But I think the main reason would be because they want to troll people, right? Like, they don't like the character, they want to upset people who do like the character, and so they're going to share these like negative things about him, right? Of course, when you do that, the people who like the character are not going to be happy with you. And so people reported those people who were sharing these like vile messages to Infold, to the company, and they were like, what the fuck? Like, you can't, are you going to let this stand, basically? So Infold probably would have seen the messages anyway. It's just the question of whether they would have taken action on it if it had just gone through their moderation filters, and we don't know. But because people, like lots of fans, were also like mass reporting this to Infold, is like, you've got to do something about people who are like doing this like gleefully. Some people actually caught bans from the game because of this. It seems like it was mainly temporary bans, and there were a few people who were permanently banned from the game, possibly because they have already had multiple warnings about this kind of behavior before. And then Infold had to put out basically like a public statement being like, yeah, we had to ban some people for this like negative behavior. Like, don't do that shit, guys. You'll catch a ban. And of course, I think that's valid, right? It's like, if you're not only going to be like you're misusing the content of the game, basically. And if a staff member had to read like vile, threatening messages just from your actions, that's bad enough on its own. But then to be like actively in the fan communities, like sharing these things and like spreading hate, it's like they're not going to want you associated with their game, right? The thing is, because it's a gacha game, lots of people have spent lots of real world money on these games, right? And I think, it's a hypothesis, the people who feel strongly enough to be doing this shit of like sending the death threats to the characters and then sharing them in these fan spaces are probably also the people who are into the game enough to have spent some significant chunk of money, right? Like, because the weird thing is, you're like, okay, they just don't like the character, but there are 5 love interests, so chances are they have a love interest that they really, really like, and chances are, this happens a lot in this fandom, one love interest gets attention for a perfectly valid reason, like his birthday, right? So it's focused on Raphael. People who are fans of other love interests and who don't like that love interest will like be genuinely mad about it. So I'm guessing some of these folks who caught bans have invested some significant chunks of change into the game. And so then they're complaining, people being like, oh, it's not fair because they've spent real money in this game and you're banning them. Like, you're literally taking away their ability to access all this stuff that they paid for. And all the time that they would have invested, whatever, if they've been playing for a really long time, right? And you know what? I don't feel bad for them at all. Because, like, well, it's the age that we live in general with video games, where you don't really own anything to begin with, but particularly with a live service free-to-play game like this, like, you aren't paying for access to the game. You're paying for access to specific items or features or whatever within the game. But like, your access to the game could be revoked at any time for violating their terms of service. I think that's perfectly fair. And it's just one of those things where it's like, well, if you didn't want this to happen, why were you doing that shit in the first place? Like, anyway, I don't feel bad for the people who caught a ban. Well, I feel bad for people for whom sending death threats to fictional characters and then spreading trolling hate on fan spaces is a fun pastime. I feel bad for those people because it seems like because it seems like something must be missing in your life for that to be your pastime of choice. Personally, I like to do things that I enjoy and then engage in fan spaces for things that I enjoy, and I don't engage in fan spaces for things that I don't enjoy, and I don't, like, even within Love and Deep Space, I have my favorites, and I have there's 2 in particular who are not my favorites, but I don't judge people who like them. And you know what I do? I just like don't really interact with them because they're fictional characters in my phone, and I can do that because I'm a human being with free will. So I feel bad for people who are missing something in their lives to the extent that that's their pastime of choice. I don't feel bad that they caught bans, because what the fuck did you think was going to happen? And you're being an asshole to like other people online, and also like causing problems for the staff who will probably have to like moderate those messages. So just like maybe take the ban as a little time out, go to therapy, chill the fuck out, and then maybe everything will be fine. Anyway, related to this as well, because it was Raphael's birthday, so Infold had their in-person event, and then like This is another thing that's kind of causing drama, but there was like a drone show, also in China, that was like Raphael's birthday celebration, like 2000 drone light show, and like various other sort of Raphael birthday events. And now fans online are like, oh, well, we better get the same treatment for every love interest on their birthdays coming up, da da da. Thing is, the official in person event, that was obviously an official event sponsored by the company. The drone show and a whole bunch of other stuff were fan sponsored events, which is wild. Like, I don't know how much it costs to put on a 2000 drone custom light show above a city, but I assume it's kind of a lot of money. Like, it's a lot more than like purchasing a billboard or something. So, yeah, like there are official fan groups who will presumably pool their money in order to put on events like this. And so I love that. I think it's great. The drone show was beautiful. I'm so glad people posted about it on TikTok. But there are some people who are misinformed about the origins of the initiative. It didn't come from the company. That was like fan organized stuff. And so it's like, well, the Raphael girlies in China organized a drone show. If the Silas girlies in China want to do something for his birthday, that's up to them. Infold will probably put on an in-person event, but like some people, I think, assumed it was all official, which would be crazy, honestly. I would love that, but no, fan-sponsored events. Pretty common, actually. This is the first time I've seen it for a video game, but I used to be more into K-pop, and it was certainly common in K-pop circles for fans, you know, like purchase a billboard or like, you know, a display or whatever to celebrate the album release or something like that. But yeah, some of these Love and Deep Space girlies got money, and they like are not only spending it on the game, they're also spending it on real life, like, stuff, which is, I think, really cool. Like, if I was like rich as hell, if I won like $100 million in the lottery, you bet your ass I'd be doing shit like that, because you know what, that's the sort of thing that like makes people happy. And it's ultimately like you're just providing free entertainment for people. Great, keep doing that. I want to see more of that. Love and Deep Space girlies, keep at it. I think that's, you know, we can be the change we want to see in the world if we put on 2000 drone light shows for our favorite Love and Deep Space love interest on his birthday. I think that's really inspiring, actually. Now, Love and Deep Space, like I said, I am enjoying it, but it has also brought up a couple of things that I have been thinking about and want to talk about now, since I'm talking about Love and Deep Space. Like I said, let people enjoy things, right? There are some people who think the idea of a dating sim is like cringe, and there are lots of problems with gacha games, do not get me wrong. But I think let people enjoy things. If we're all adults and we can all make our own choices, right? There are a couple of things that Love and Deep Space is doing that I actually really, really like. But also, I don't know, I will explain. In the most recent update, I believe, this was before I started playing, but the most recent like major like content update, they added a period tracking feature where you can go into the game and, like, you know, with your favorite love interest or whatever, be like, oh, like, I'm on my period. And then, like, on, like, day 2, they'll be like, oh, it's, like, day 2 of your period. Like, how are you feeling? Do you need me to, like, comfort you? And I think maybe with enough data, they'll actually start to be like, oh, it seems like your period is starting soon. So, do I like that? No. But also, yes. I don't like it because I am very much a data privacy kind of girl. I don't like the idea of willingly giving unnecessary info to companies and corporations. I do realize that we are constantly having our data harvested at all times, but I do think there's a line between the data that is harvested as a result of using social media, and using social media is almost a requirement of engaging with society on a day-to-day basis nowadays. And then there's the data that we willingly hand over to companies. And I just try to minimize the amount of data that I'm just like willingly handing over, right? So I don't love period tracking apps pretty much at all. I don't love period tracking apps, period. I'm funny. And I really... things that make me go, are providing your medical data to an Otome gacha game. Not that I'm saying Infold has nefarious purposes or anything like that. It's just that, like, it would not be my choice to do. But like I said, I wouldn't use any sort of, like, honestly, even like fitness trackers and stuff like that, sleep trackers. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because you can't guarantee where that data is going, and I don't like it. But I understand why people use them. I mean, it is a valuable tool, and like the fact that we have such an understanding of medicine and technology, medical technology together, it's pretty impressive, and I understand why people use them. I have not and will not be using the period tracker in Love and Deep Space, but I understand why people would. And it's cute, right? Part of the appeal of Love and Deep Space is it kind of is just like, it's the dating game, but it's also kind of a boyfriend simulator where you can go on and be like, I had a bad day, and he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, you know, like, and it's cute, and if it brings people comfort on their periods, which is already a shitty time, that's fine. I do have the concerns about the data. But the other thing that I will say that I think is really interesting is like, yeah, this game and Infold's games in general, the Nikki games are the same. The target audience are women, right? And as a woman who has been playing video games for a very long time, there are very few games which feel like we are actually the target audience. There are lots of games which don't feel actively hostile to women as an audience, or games that are sort of, I don't know, I'll say gender neutral marketing wise. But there are very few games that feel like they are made specifically for women as the primary audience, the primary demographic, in my opinion. And there are a lot of games that feel actively hostile to play as a woman. Infold's games, and Love and Deep Space in particular, have women as their primary audience. And I think it's really interesting because when I tell you that the game that I'm playing has a period tracker feature, what's your first reaction? And is it that sort of initial inherent like, oh, periods? Even I have that, right? Where it's like the ingrained discomfort around menstruation that is pervasive within our culture, right? As a shameful thing or as something that needs to be hidden. I think it's very cool that Infold has made this a feature in their game where it's like kind of almost, I can think of it like kind of like setting an example. Like the Love and Deep Space love interests are kind of supposed to be like peak boyfriend material. They all have their own like mysterious powers and all of this stuff, and their connection with the main character is so like deep, like soul bond. And then that's like the sort of fantasy level, but then on the base level, like they're kind of supposed to be good boyfriends, and that's the model that they're giving you. And it's like, okay, if we're modeling what a perfect boyfriend is like, a boyfriend who cares about you enough to like ask if you're feeling uncomfortable when you're on your period, who cares enough to like know if things are regular, and who isn't squeamish about talking about it with you, like that's actually something that I think a lot of us should be anyone who is dating anyone who has a period, who also dates men or who dates people who don't have periods, should probably expect that in a partner. And I kind of think it's cool that like in this game that is supposed to be the peak boyfriend experience, it's not a hidden thing. It's like an openly acknowledged thing. Like, yes, this is a normal thing to have happen, and talking about it is normal and good. I think that's kind of cool, because really, how many pieces of media can you really think of that like openly acknowledge menstruation as a thing that happens, right? And it's sort of, you know, I don't love live service games either, because I do like being able to own the things that I buy. But it's one of those sort of like a live service gotcha game where you're kind of supposed to be checking in every day as like part of the play cycle. It's kind of cool that they've taken advantage of that natural inbuilt sort of life cycle of a gotcha game, of a live service game in this way. This is probably not the most intelligent media analysis, but it is something that I think is worth talking about. So there's that. The other thing that I think is quite interesting that they have in Love and Deep Space is you can spend quote unquote quality time with the guys, where it's like, oh, if I'm studying, okay, I'll set a timer for 30 minutes and then I have my little virtual boyfriend on the screen for 30 minutes and he's doing his little work and I can do my little work at the same time, which is a cute feature and could be actually really helpful for some people, like as a motivator, right? This idea of body doubling is something that people with ADHD would be familiar with, where like working with another person in the space can actually help us be way more productive. But this could be similar to that. However, a part of that is that in addition to like working and studying, you can work out and have the guy on the screen doing his little workout at the same time as you're doing your little workout. And again, that's, you know, I totally see why some people would think that's cringe or whatever, but I also think it's one of those things is like, if it's motivating people to work out, that's great. And there are little rewards you get in game. So by doing it consistently, you'll unlock like a special outfit, and you'll get like certain rewards if you do it for like multiple weeks in a row. Where like, if you think about it, if I work out for 30 days in a row just so that I can spend time with my little pretend virtual boyfriend, then I've actually built a really healthy habit. And I get the benefit of unlocking a fun little outfit for my virtual boyfriend in my little video game. But it's another thing where I'm like, they're actually using the features of this game in a way to like, to seemingly better the lives of the people playing it. Now, obviously, you don't actually have to work out when your virtual boyfriend is working out. You can set the timer and leave it just to unlock the rewards. But it is one of, like, if that's something that motivates people to exercise, great. Like, exercising is objectively good for you. I'm not by any means a gym girl. I like to walk on my little walking pad and do little, like yoga and stuff like that. But if I'm feeling unmotivated and then I get to look at my cute little virtual boyfriend and that motivates me to exercise, like, the alternative, if the alternative is not exercising or exercising more versus less, hey, great, right? That's my opinion. So yeah, like, there's a couple of things where, even though it's a gacha game, which is an inherently predatory business model, and like, I'm not saying it's a perfect game, and I'm certainly not saying that everybody should download it, because like, you do need to have that level of brain development or like maturity to not get a gambling addiction, I guess. And obviously not develop too parasocial relationship with your virtual boyfriend, but like, also whatever, I don't care, because it's not hurting anybody. But like, I just think there's some interest, like, from a media analysis perspective, it's quite interesting. Last thing I'll end with for this portion of the program about Love and Deep Space is that I was talking to, so I downloaded it several weeks ago, and now several of my friends have also downloaded it because I keep talking about it, which I think is very funny. I love influencing my friends like that with a piece of media that I like. And I was talking to my friend, because in Love and Deep Space, you're not actually limited to just dating one of the love interests. You can date as many of them as you want. And it's all kind of, it's like non-linear parallel storytelling. So it's like, anyway, whatever. You can date as many of them as you want is the gist of it. And so I was like, oh yeah, like, I mean, I love that. Like, I love a good reverse harem. That's like one of my favorite like tropes. And my friend was like, well, is it why does it have to be a reverse harem? It could just be, it's just a harem. Like, why? Just because for those unfamiliar, reverse harem would be the trope where one girl is dating multiple guys at the same time. And I was like, you know what? She's so right. Why is it reverse harem? Why don't we just call it regular harem? Just because the genders are flipped, why is it reverse? And that's feminism, folks. And that's where I will leave the Love and Deep Space discussion for now. But you've been warned, I may talk about this more in the future. We'll see. Another fandom thing. This is, I think maybe the theme of this episode is things that matter to me personally, but will matter to other people too. Another very, very important thing happened for me personally this week is that Ghost, the band, announced their new Papa. And if that means nothing to you, stay tuned, because I'll explain what I mean. Ghost is a band. They have been around since 2010, I want to say. Actually, you know what? I need to preface this conversation before I get into this. The reason I can't remember when they started, and this is going to affect my discussion of this, I do not have a good memory for lore and details and things like that. My short-term memory is, I would say, akin to Swiss cheese. I don't get to control what falls through and what gets remembered and what just sort of disappears into the ether, okay? My long-term memory is like some sort of deep-sea leviathan where it will just occasionally surface in random places with forbidden knowledge for me, but I don't get to choose when or where that happens or what triggers things to be remembered. I'm basically like that character from Adventure Time that's like, I have an approximate knowledge of many things, Finn the human child. I don't even know if that's the right quote, because I have an approximate knowledge of many things and not a comprehensive knowledge of any one thing, okay? I am prefacing this discussion of Ghost because Ghost has a lot of lore. And if you are a Ghost fan listening to this, and I get the lore wrong, I don't know, man. That's just my brain. Can't do anything about it. Except I could Google it, but I'm not going to because I do think it's funnier if I don't. So, returning to the conversation, Ghost is a metal band. I think I said heavy metal. I don't actually think that's accurate. They are a metal band. They are a rock band. Again, approximate knowledge of many things. They have a frontman. The frontman of Ghost is technically Tobias Forge, who is the founder and mind behind Ghost. However, Tobias Forge, when he is performing as the frontman of Ghost, dresses up in a costume. The lore around Ghost is that Papa Emeritus, or colloquially known as Papa, is essentially the Pope of the Satanic Church, also known as the clergy. Papa performs as the frontman of Ghost in order to spread the word of Satan. Now, before you scream and cry and throw up, Ghost isn't a Satanist band. Like, they use religious themes, religious imagery of Satan and like anti-religious imagery, I suppose, to convey the story of the lore of Ghost, as well as to make social commentary and critiques of organized religion as a whole, and also just like society in general, right? Tobias Forge himself is not a Satanist by any definition. The band are, as far as I know, not Satanists. It's not like a Satan worship thing. It's a religious iconography and imagery for critique sort of thing. Okay, calm down. So, in the lifespan of Ghost, there have been, thus far, 4 papas. Primo, Secundo, Terzo, and Copia, who was also a cardinal for a time being. So technically Tobias Forge has played 5 different frontmen of the band Ghost, but one of them was a cardinal, so there have only been 4 papas, okay? Last year was Cardinal Copia, or Papa Emeritus IV's, final tour. A lot of people speculated that he was actually going to die at the end of that tour because the same thing has happened. All the other papas kind of bit the dust. He did not die. He was given the name of Frater Imperator for reasons that I will not get into right now. But since then, since the mantle of Papa was removed from former Cardinal Copia, we have been waiting. We Ghost fans have been waiting for our new Papa to arrive. I will also say that I am a person for whom fandom is transient. So Ghost was a big part of my life a couple of years ago, and then it kind of died down. But now, you might see where I'm going with this. This week, we finally have our new Papa. And my Ghost fandom has been reactivated. I said this last week about the Korra Defense Squad. It's like my activation code has been said. It's the same thing now with Ghost. New music video, album and tour announcement, and new Papa. Hell yes. So, Papa Emeritus V, now known as Papa Perpetua, which is quite interesting. The other thing is that with each Papa, each Papa represents a new era of the sort of, for the music of the band, but also aesthetically. Each Papa has a different look, and the backing band, also known as the Ghouls, get a different look, sort of in line with each Papa, although not entirely. But it was like, what's the new Papa going to look like? What are the Ghouls going to look like? What's the vibe going to be? And we finally know. Papa Perpetua has sort of a half mask. This is the other thing all the previous Papas, Tobias Forge, the actual frontman, wore essentially a full latex face mask. So like he looks like a completely different person each time. He has in the past said that wearing a full latex mask covering your entire head and performing metal for several hours at a time turns out is quite difficult to do and maybe makes one a bit claustrophobic, which is really not surprising. This new Papa, it seems to me like he has this sort of metal half mask. It looks like it's Tobias's own face sort of on the lower half with some paint. So I think maybe he's actually managed to find a way to maintain the sort of mask thing and the different frontman's vibe, and also maybe let himself breathe a little bit easier and not like sweat so much. I can't imagine. Can you not even performing in front of a live audience in a mask like that, but just imagine wearing an entire face over your face for several hours at a time, latex. It would be so sweaty. Ugh. and claustrophobic. I would not want to do that. I can totally see why Tobias might want to move away from that. Looks like that's what's happening with Papa Perpetua. Papa Perpetua. That's hard to say. And it looks cool as hell because it's this like shiny, like silver mask with like skull motif, and he's got like metal hands and fingers too. Like, he looks a little bit like robotic, but we don't know yet the lore because all we have now is this one music video introducing the new Papa and the new ghouls. The ghouls all got a new look too, which will grow on me, I'm sure. We only got a very small glimpse. I really like the look of the ghouls from the previous era. They had these sort of bug-like, almost like gas mask or pilot sort of mask helmet things that were very cool to me. But I'm sure with more, once we see the performances and get more of a look at the costumes, I'm sure it'll grow on me. It's just new, so change is difficult, okay? But yeah, big news for me personally, and big news for the Ghost fandom in general. I don't actually know what the Ghost fandom is called. I've just always called them guesties, like Ghost besties, like GHESTIE. But I don't know if that's actually what the fandom calls us or themselves. I don't know, but I'm going to call them guesties. So hey, guesties, we won. New Papa. There is some debate because the previous 3 Papas are dead and have been for a while. There is some debate in the fandom of whether or not one in particular will come back. He's kind of a fan favorite. Is Terzo, the 3rd one. He's also my favorite because I'm basic. Whatever. I don't care. I am a Terzo Resurrection truther. The album is releasing, I believe, the week of Easter, aka the Resurrection. Some people are like, please, by God, leave Terzo in the past. He's dead. Just let it go. I will not let it go. I will not let it go. I mean, obviously, once we have more lore on Perpetua and once we know for sure who he is and whether or not he is in fact Terzo, obviously I'm going to be mad about him not being Terzo. I think the chances are actually quite slim that he is Terzo. But if he was, wouldn't that be so nice for everybody? It would be nice for me personally. It would be a big victory. The other interesting thing with Ghost is for, I think, most of their albums, if not all of them, when they release the album, they release, on streaming or whatever, but it's also, they'll usually do a vinyl and a special edition vinyl, regular edition vinyl, special edition vinyl. I don't listen to vinyl records because I don't listen to a lot of music. But they also tend to release cassette tapes of the albums, like special limited edition, fancy little cassette tapes, which I suppose, like I'm not a music person in general. I know lots of people like to listen to vinyl records for like the sound quality. I don't know if there are people out there who like to listen to cassette tapes, like if there's a different quality that people like from cassette tapes. I honestly genuinely don't know. For me personally, I have mentioned before, my car is old as hell. My car does not have a CD player. My car has a cassette player. I have not been able to get my hands on one of the cassettes from the previous album cycles because they are like limited edition. It's not like I understand why they're limited edition, particularly because like you're probably not going to get a lot of people buying cassette tapes in this day and age, so there's no point in like making them just en masse. But it means I have a cassette player in my car that's actually way easier. If I want to play music from my phone to my car's speakers, I have a special cassette tape adapter that goes into the cassette player, and then I have to plug that into my phone. That's my aux cord. I don't have I have to put my aux cord in the cassette player. I am the target demographic of the limited edition Ghost cassette tapes, and I have not been able to get my hands on one as of yet. But I'm kind of hoping that I will for this album. I think maybe on pre-order, so I should look into that. But it's like, yeah, literally, like, I have the technology. And I would actually listen to it in the car. So if anyone deserves one of those, it's me. Anyway, yes, let's go guesties. We have our new Papa. I'm very excited. Oh, the other thing is Papa Perpetua's color. His whole color scheme seems to be purple largely, and purple is in fact my favorite color. So again, it's another win for me personally. They did this for me specifically, not for you. I'm just glad he's purple. I just like it when they're purple. I think it's neat. Yeah. So big week for me, big week for Love and Deep Space, big week for Ghost. Otherwise, it was actually kind of boring on the internet this week, I feel like. I don't know, maybe February, March is just not a good time to decide to start a podcast that relies on like pop culture. Maybe there's just not a lot happening in February and March. Speaking of which, the weather is driving me insane, but it's fine. It just is like spring? No, not spring. Spring, not spring. Spring, not spring. And it's making me crazy. A little bit of cabin fever from the winter is setting in, but it's fine. Yeah, it just hasn't been a really interesting week on the internet, but I think we got it. I think we got the content, folks. Oh, final little update for the Furry No Money Nation. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you should go watch the older episodes because I talked about it there. Baby No Money has done a Sonic cosplay now, which is halfway to furry, I feel like. Was much more humanoid Sonic, but it's getting there. And he commented on a fursuit maker's video about giving people free fursuits, and he was like, I want one. Now, Baby No Money could definitely pay for his own fursuit, but the point was he commented on a video about fursuits and said that he wanted one, which means, once again, I was right, and this is now my prediction for the future. I think we will see Furry No Money come to reality, and then I'll be able to point back to what I said like 3 weeks ago. That's a good idea, and he should do it. Mark my words. The prophecy is foretold. And if this doesn't happen, none of you are allowed to bring it up. You're only allowed to bring it up if I turn out to be right. Them's the rules. Yeah, like I said, kind of boring week on the internet this week. Unless I missed stuff, which I probably did. If I didn't talk about some stuff that you would have wanted to talk about, well, that's too bad because I'm the one with the microphone and it's my show. Thanks for listening. Bye.